Welcome to the 8 Billion Project, where we're on a mission to make an impact by discovering and sharing the purpose of every person on this planet. I'm your host, Liza Florida. Enjoy today's episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 8 Billion Podcast. I am your host, Liza Florida, and today we have another guest for Season 5D. She is a hypnotherapist, claircognizant, and coach who found her soul's work as a result of a life-threatening diagnosis at the age of 21 and a near-death experience that changed her life. As a result, she began working with other purpose-driven women to help them heal trauma, emotional wounds that stopped them from becoming visible, living their purpose, and making an impact. She's developed a highly effective modality that releases negative emotions and traumatic memories stored in the body that she combines with energy and subconscious work. Everyone, please help me welcome the lovely Tatiana Villarea to the 8 Billion Podcast. Welcome, Tatiana.
Hi, and thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy
Thank you.
Finally doing it.
I know. Thank you so much. Tatiana has been so gracious. I just want to let the audience know this has been absolutely my most incredible work this season. And Tatiana came in at the very end. I had so many inquiries and like I said, I did my best to go through it, but Tatiana actually reached out at the very end. And I don't know if I either missed it or something, but she's here because she's meant to be here this season. And she's got an amazing story and she has wonderful mission and work to do here on this planet. So we're going to jump into it, Tatiana. Why don't you start with your story? Since we were just even talking about this, that storytelling has been an amazing way for people to learn right now.
For as long as humanity exists, right? We gathered around the fires. So let's imagine we are gathered around the fire. Where do I begin? I always knew I wanted to make a difference. And I ran away from my family, from childhood trauma and family trauma at age 19 to the States with $350 in my pocket. Out of all places, I came to New York. As you might imagine, $350 did not last long in New York. And I thought I ran away. I thought I could just start my life from scratch and get on this journey to make a difference, to basically start my life from scratch, start a new leaf. But as I later found out, wherever we go, we take ourselves with us, right? So that naive 19-year-old perspective wasn't exactly working. And I took the trauma to all my relationships, to all my jobs, and eventually into my business as well. And at age 19, as you mentioned, at age 21, I was diagnosed with a developing cancer. And this, I would say, is the beginning of my journey, like the realness of it, all the rock bottoms, all the fear, all the survival as a new immigrant with the diagnosis. I was alone. I didn't tell my family because, again, I was not in the best relationship with them. I was on my own with the scary diagnosis, with the doctor scaring me and telling me I need surgery yesterday. And I had that surgery. And not only were they not able to remove all the cancerous cells, but I also developed a medical injury. And so the journey became even more difficult. And this is how I got into hypnotherapy. Because in my attempt to heal my body, first of all, because I was told that I basically would have had to spend my whole life in fear and checkups, because the fear, the cancers, the changes, basically the doctor said that they would come back, they might come back, and I needed to check it all the time, basically live in fear, right? Which it meant. And also that medical injury, which really basically the severe nerve connecting my spinal cord and my brain, mood, and all sorts of changes. And to say that I lived in hell is an understatement. To add to this, of course, not having money. Sometimes I would not have money for food and rent. So the journey has been real. And in all of it, on top of all of it, I had to make sure I survive physically and heal whatever I needed to heal. And this is when I started asking bigger questions, the why, and digging into the root causes of that health issue, and also tried everything, all the conventional and unconventional modalities to reverse the neurological damage. And this is how, accidentally, without knowing how it would work and that it would work at all, I go for a hypnotherapy session with a completely different request. And in that session, I had 2 sessions that changed my health. And in one, my medical injury was reversed, and I never had those symptoms ever again since, and it's been a lot of years. Mm-hmm. And in the second session, the same thing happened with my back pain that I had chronic since maybe 12 or 13 years old. And this is when I found out I didn't yet understand what happened. I thought, as many of us do when we discover hypnotherapy, as we are told, that it was the work with the subconscious that did it. Mm-hmm. That it was me unlocking the mind and reprogramming the subconscious, and this is why physical changes happened. But as I understand now, it was completely different things that happened in those sessions. And this is what became my work.
And then that took you down that journey. So you've been doing this since 21?
No, it took me a little while to try everything else. Yeah, I lived for about 4 years with that medical injury. It was quite intense, and so my work right now is very body based. Mm-hmm. Because traditionally hypnotherapy is looked at as a mind first, or I would say only modality where the mind is prioritized, as most of the modalities in healing and transformational industries, because we are taught the mind is primary. Yes. But I discovered something really different.
Yes. And could you take us down that? Because that's what I'm really interested to share with the audience. Because Tatiana has a different modality of how she does things. And I really wanted to bring this to the audience just so you guys have an option. I know that so many people have done hypnosis, hypnotherapy, and then, of course, quantum healing hypnosis therapy. So could you share with us what you have discovered, or, what you've come to, with your practice right now, coming out this far with everything you've learned?
Of course. Oh, that's why we're here, right? Yeah. So basically, my first attempt and the first session of hypnotherapy was not even the standard suggestive hypnosis. It was the quantum hypnosis, Dolores Cannon style, the QHHT modality. And the transformation that took place, I still thought it was because of the mind, because I realized it was kind of in those sessions, and I truly believe, and my primary approach to hypnotherapy is that hypnosis is a means to get into an expanded state of consciousness. Okay. That, how we were just talking about it, how we all say that we're going through an awakening right now as a planet, and all those answers are within. But how, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody who starts on this journey, and we are told, but all your answers are within. You don't need gurus. You don't need, to look for those answers outside. But how? How is a very important question. How do we get to this place where we don't have all those filters and the trauma and everything that blocks us from having those answers, finding them out? Yeah. So this is what I discovered, that this was the door to that expanded state of consciousness, to that bigger version of ourselves. Where in the session, what happens, there's even an explanation in terms of like neurology and what happens in the brain, okay, and why it happens, right? But without getting into the science, we basically, the parts of the brain that are responsible for our sense of self, as our personality, as the ego, as all of our defenses and survival, mm-hmm. they kind of get pushed back, right? And we step into or expand into the soul part, the higher self part. And this is when we get a chance to have a bird's eye view on different issues that we have. So this is really what happened in the session, that I was able to see the root cause of my pain, the developing cancer, the medical injury, and why it happened to me. And I had a consciousness shift in that session together with the rewiring of the body.
Okay.
Because one of the properties of hypnosis is to rewire neural pathways. So we can change literally the neurocircuitry of the body, which is exactly what I needed for the medical injury.
Okay. I'm trying to grasp that right now. That's crazy, because what you're saying is, like, most of us attach the hypnosis to everything that happens in the mind. But what you're saying, or what you're presenting, the modality and the method, is that it starts in the body first, right?
Well, it's yes, absolutely. It's body, because body has memory, and also it's twofold. So in regular suggestive hypnosis, yes, there is really the work with the subconscious mind. It's a mind-based approach. But is it the only thing that hypnosis does?
No.
My suggestion and my long-term exploration of it in my personal life and with countless clients is that it's a lot more. It's an experience that opens us up to those higher states of consciousness.
Yeah.
And parallel to this, if we know how to do it, and this is why I had to develop my techniques, we can work with the body memory, because our body holds the memory of everything that happened to us. Neurologically, neurochemically, cellularly, trauma is stored in the body. Emotional wounds and relationship wounds is all stored in the body. We are told that is the brain. But there are, even neurologically, there are a lot more nerves that lead from the body to the brain than from the brain to the body. And this is maybe what indigenous people knew in all their practices and rituals, where they incorporated the body.
Now I get it. Now that you said that, because you're absolutely right. Now, let me ask you, Tatiana, what would be the difference between someone doing your methodology, which is similar to quantum healing, right? And of course it would heal the body, as opposed to someone doing the energy work, like, let's say, for instance, with Reiki and energy healing? What would be the difference?
The main difference is, first of all, I didn't stay with the QHHT modality because I realized that this was not enough, because there was actually no work with the neurological aspect. And it's a very passive method. And and to answer your question, Reiki and energy work they are passive modalities.
Okay.
If we could achieve enlightenment or healing by doing nothing, we as a planet would have been there by now. Don't you?
True.
think so?
You're right. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely.
So Reiki is wonderful if it's the first steps, right? Healing and connecting that there is something beyond this physical reality.
Yeah.
Other energy practices, it's all important. It's all a piece of the puzzle and a step on the way to the healing. But is it the end? No. And I see it time and time again in my own personal life and with clients, when we begin the journey with the body and what the body remembers. So I don't begin the session with, let me take you back to a memory and try to regress the client. It's possible. But again, it's a mind approach.
Yeah.
But the body is what stores the reactions. The body has the procedural, the intrinsic memory.
Yeah.
And it's hooked on an emotional state or trauma. And unless this is resolved, we can try to bypass this whole mechanism, which is very stubborn and well rehearsed for how many years, depending on how old we are, right? I work with clients from between 30 and 60 years old, right? The average. And it's a lot of years of rehearsed mechanism, I would say. And so intrinsic memories of the body is not something that we can even access with our mind, conscious or unconscious. Or with unconscious, okay, let's say we can access it, but can we overpower the body, which is the body's main function is survival.
Mm-hmm.
We will preserve our life. Like, for example, a person says, I want to create my business, or I want to change the world with my modality or my spiritual gifts, right? We all want to serve. And let's say we have gone through a lot of emotional wounding and trauma. Mm-hmm. There is a transgenerational aspect to it as well, right? So the body's in survival. The body is going to fight with all its might, with all its neurocircuitry, with all its intelligence. Mm-hmm. It's a very smart mechanism. Its main job, and the subconscious job is the same, by the way. So now we have those two tremendously powerful mechanisms that we are trying to overpower with, trying to think positively or doing passive ways of healing. And this is why change is so hard. And this is why most people do not change. Mm-hmm. Because we move forward and then the body and the preservation will take over. We will do some work again and it will take over again, because the mechanism of survival and the fear, the state of unsafety that the body locks in, for example, what was causing my health issues, the medical trauma, right? The shock from the surgery that I had, mm-hmm. which then avalanched into all the health issues I had, all the neurological damage, or my childhood trauma, or my really, really awful relationship with money for years and years and years. Or my biggest fear when I started my business was fear of visibility. When I started my business, I was motivated. I wanted to change the world. But for the first 3 years of my business, I was terrified of camera and public speaking. I could not even say a word. I would go into a state of paralysis, panic. My vocal cords would close. And this is what is body memory. It's all the body showing us what it stores.
Well, okay, can I take it to another level, though, when you're saying that?
Sure.
Because quantum healing, right, or hypnosis had a lot to do with past life. And that was the curiosity that sparked me with Dolores Cannon's work. Sure. Now, when you're saying that, like, you know how you're saying that you couldn't speak? Do you now attribute it, like, have you been able to connect it with a past life of where you weren't able to speak? Or how does that work? Have you been able to identify if it is attached to a past life?
It's a wonderful question. It's actually an amazing question. It's one of, I live to be answering those
questions like that, right?
So the answer would be twofold. Yes, it's connected to all those memories and karmic imprints of being abused, killed, punished for our knowledge, for attempting to do it in the past, this consciousness work, creating the impact. Yes, that's true. And a lot of people, because of that, would go, and I myself went through the stage where I thought that this is the main part. The problem is that people get carried away and they become kind of like blaming it all on some life or some traumatic death. And we all have those deaths, and we all have gone through a lot of those experiences. So the second answer to the question would be the same experience is most likely activated in this life because it's a karmic pattern. We don't need to go. We can go. It's helpful. And this is why I moved away from QHHT as a modality, and I had to develop my own, because nothing in what exists in the therapeutic industry as itself, as a standalone modality, gave me all the answers and tools I needed.
True.
And so, yes, we can do it with the past life regression, but how do we then solve what is activated in this life?
Correct. Because that's the most important.
Exactly. This is what's wiring our neurocircuitry, our neurology, our biology of the body. So we can start from the
way back. Yes, millions and billions.
Or we can do it, first of all, at the same time, kind of. Or we can focus on the now and release the fear, release the survival, release that body memory, release the emotions. And this is what I had to develop. I had to develop those techniques. It's been a journey. It's been a few years. And this is why when people ask me what kind of hypnotherapy I practice, I'm like, I created my own modality because again, I needed a lot more for myself. And then I realized it's the same for everybody.
Yeah.
That it's not just the subconscious. It's not just having the quantum hypnosis and being in that expanded state and having the bird's eye view, because there's another. So basically, when I got introduced to QHHT, I thought, that's it. It's the answer to everything.
Mm-hmm.
But then I realized in my own life and then doing these sessions for others, we would create an amazing, like the client would have an amazing session. We would be like, multidimensional expansion, answers to the deepest root cause problems. But then they come home and the body memory and the conflicts internally take over.
Yes.
And I got tired of it. I didn't want to waste my clients' money or time.
It's very true though, because I just want to let the audience know, I did quantum healing hypnosis therapy in March of 2020. And even then, where I am then compared to now is so much different. When I went into it, I thought, oh, great. All of my problems are going to be solved. They were not, I'm telling you. And I'm not telling you to not do QHHT. Tatiana is absolutely right. It's the body. And it's clicking literally right now while I'm talking to you in the podcast, because I'm now matching it up to my experience. Because I'm telling you, Tatiana, I still had so much clearing to do. I mean, I'm still doing it right now. But what I'm saying is what you're potentially presenting to the audience, you've done a lot of research on, and you've actually used it on yourself. So I'm
the living proof of it, because I've done so many QHHT sessions. Mm-hmm. And despite all of it, for 3 years, I was terrified of camera. I've done so many regressions, so many amazing quantum travel, whatever experiences. And I was still terrified of camera, not networking, because I couldn't be in groups or in public. And I had really, I could not be in groups, period. Because again, what we just discussed, all those memories, and even from this lifetime, there is plenty of stuff that encoded all of this and activated all of this. And so I was not reaching the people I wanted to reach. I was not making the difference. I knew all the theory. I knew my soul contract. I knew what I'm doing, how I'm meant to do it. I knew it all. But I would still be basically hitting the same wall over and over and over again, living in the basement apartment in the winter with one window, with crazy, loud Italian neighbors and their dog. And I'm like, because of my sensitivity and psychic abilities, I don't know if I'm sure you can relate. And a lot of the audience perhaps as well. I'm super sensitive to smell and noise. Mm-hmm. The noise, the Italian food, and the dog. I wasn't going insane in that basement. And this is when I knew I had to make a change. Whatever I was doing was not solving my problem.
Yeah.
Because I was over-focusing on the mind, trying to change my thinking about speaking publicly on the camera. Or I was trying to just get out and explore, I don't know, all the multidimensionality and consciousness work. But consciousness work and energy work are not equal to trauma work.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. It will take a while. It will take a while, because you're right. whether it's Reiki healing, whether it's energy healing, whether it's QHHT, they're all pieces of the puzzle that we all go down, because we do get to that place like we just want to heal, because sometimes the pain is so unbearable. And so you try it all. But I'm curious to find out now, the methodology that you had, did you figure it out, your use with clients, testing it out on clients? Because I was like, how do you do it with yourself?
It's been quite a journey, actually. And before I answer this question, I just want to reflect on something. Energy work and work with expanded states of consciousness, which is hypnosis, is the door to those states. Mm-hmm. And there are others, right?
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's valid. It's one of the best tools to get those answers to the big questions. Why I have this issue in my life, why this relationship happened, why my mom and my dad, and how this childhood trauma, and what was the purpose. So we can get the bird's eye view.
Yeah.
But addressing it is where trauma work and body memory work comes in. I just wanted to specify that.
Yeah.
All of it is valid, but no one thing is the solution to the entire thing.
Yeah. So when you say addressing it, would it be like a session with you and where they talk about it?
No, because again, talking is kind of like talk therapy, right? This is why it's a very slow way that takes years. Because again, we are trying to overpower what happens in conventional talk-based or cognitive approaches. We're trying to change the entire intelligence and survival state of the body, right? All that self-preservation that is keeping us from perceived danger with conscious mind. We can't even access those deeper archaic level, let alone reprogram them with the mind, because the mind is not the tool to go there. We can only work with body memory by working with body memory. We can only work with subconscious by working with the subconscious. So talk therapy, no. Do I use coaching in a conjunction? Yes, but I don't use coaching in traditional sense. I use coaching more like psychoanalysis, and my background is in psychology. So to determine the conflicts, right? And then we address them in the hypnotic state. And I also would say that I explain what happens in the sessions. My goal is to make the client the expert in who they are, why they do what they do, what drives them. So when they are done working with me, they did not just go through some process and they have no idea what I guided them through and what I did, but I literally explained to them, giving them the knowledge and the science and the my background in psychology, my background in all of the modalities that I studied internationally, my background in trauma work, and in the sessions we address with the body first and foremost. Because
so the access to the body memory is through the session that you have. Okay.
And of course there are other somatic practices, right? There are somatic experiencing, which is more of the movement of the body to release trauma. But again, there are limitations because the more of the body movement release of trauma or craniosacral therapy and such, they address the body, but they don't address the psychology. You see? It's one-sided.
Exactly. And
this is what I kept bumping into. I would try a modality and I'm like, but how about this? I would try another modality, but how about that? So yeah, it's been a journey. And coming back to that question, how I would ask my friends who are practitioners to put me under and help me dig for the blind spots, because we cannot work. If I could solve all of my issues, I would be nirvana gone already by now, right? Nobody can work. We can be completely in our zone of genius, but we would have the blind spots. So we always have to have that other person. But when they were helping me to get in the hypnotic states, now I can do it on my own and I have that ability. But to get here, I went through a lot of years where my friends and other practitioners would put me under. They would dig for my blind spots and navigate, but I would use my methodology for the release of the body within the session and practicing it and perfecting it and improving it and improvising, innovating, and then starting to basically use it with clients.
Yeah.
And I'm constantly innovating, and the time basically gets shorter and shorter because I take out everything that's not needed, that I thought was needed. Like, for example, I don't start with quantum hypnosis right away. I start with the client. So over the 4 months we work together, let's say, I start with trauma work, with the body memory work, with the emotional healing, with the relationship healing, whether we are addressing mother wounds or father wounds, which cause a lot of, let's say, any issues with money, issues with business, all of our fears of success and failures. And I work with entrepreneurs, right, with other driven people in this world who are meant to make this difference, but they're blocked, right? They're afraid, and the fears are different. So we will start with the healing that causes the sabotage in their life in all sorts of areas, right? Not just business. But then we will, once the layers of the onions are cleaner and cleaner, the more we peel, this is when we don't have as many blocks to get into those states to begin with. So in other words, we can start with quantum hypnosis, and a lot of people who are very analytical would not go anywhere because their brain is a defense mechanism, because they're holding a lot of trauma, most likely. Ask me how I know. I'll be the first person to say that. My first session was very difficult, even though it created a huge transformation for my body. But that session was really difficult. I was so analytical. I was so defended. I was a control freak.
Wow.
And that's all that trauma that's holding you in this state of survival. And the more I healed trauma, the more open I became to those higher states of consciousness. And I see it time and time again if I begin in the reverse order, if we start with the emotional healing and trauma work and body memory release, then getting into those expanded states is much quicker, easier, and it becomes like the clients can actually do it themselves later because they get used to it. It's like going to the gym, and they can do it in meditation like I do.
Got it. So that's really, and how long would you say, Tatiana, like how many sessions, is it all going to be dependent on the client and the needs that they're going to you for?
Yeah, it would be, I have the standard pathway, which includes very strategic, because healing is not an accident. Healing, I believe truly that I have a very structural approach, because it allows me to shorten the time. Instead of just, randomly throwing noodles at the wall and hoping they would stick, right? Now I developed a methodology where it cuts that time, because I guide the client through the very goal-oriented steps that are needed in the healing journey, without which we cannot bypass and skip steps. We will then fall back.
Wow. That's, that is great work. And I know, Tatiana, you and I have talked offline, and there's so much more we could talk about, but we wanted to at least, I'm pretty sure we'll do more podcasts, especially as the work of 8 billion expands. And there's so much more on the other side that we wanted to, that we could, Tatiana and I could talk about because of our spiritual, of course, our journeys. However, we thought that for this particular episode, for this season, it would be great because there's so many of you out there in the audience that are going through so much right now, releasing trauma and healing, that since Tatiana has gone down this really amazing journey and has figured out a modality that she wanted to present it to all of you guys. So, Tatiana, here's one of the things that I wanted to ask you. And I've been asking this of a lot of my guests for season 5. And I just want to say thank you, because a lot of these podcasts just blow through so fast. And sometimes I wish I had 2 hours with my guests.
I'm sure.
But coming out this far, I wanted to say thank you for joining me on 8 Billion Season 5D. With everything that you have been through, you know that my intention is to really create a digital library of human consciousness, so that people would have something in the future to look to. So if someone were to come across this video 50 to 100 years from now, and it's a time capsule, what would be your message to them?
It's an amazing question. Thank you. That we come here to experience the wide range of humanness. And it includes a lot of pain, oftentimes. And it puts us, and I've been there myself for most of my life, puts us into this, why did it happen? Why did it happen to me, right? And my intention is that all those years forward, we wouldn't be asking the question why it happened to me. And we would be more well-equipped to help the person release what did happen to them, so they can step into their emotional and mental freedom and body freedom, which is behind it. We cannot step into that emotional and mental freedom without releasing that fight, flight, freeze, and all those autonomic nervous system responses, which cannot be overpowered with the mind. That's why, because they're autonomic. So we wouldn't be in the position of why it happened, but we would be working with the expanded states of consciousness, with the body memory, with all those tools combined, and we would be well equipped to address them, while also working with expanded states of consciousness to know why it happened. But the why is not as important as, it is important, but is not as important as giving people tools to be able to, tools that are the right fit for the job.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That was very beautiful, because it's true, Tatiana. Even myself personally, in the recent times, as we're going through all these shifts that are happening, when I'm waking up, and I'm sure that a lot of people that are on this journey are waking up in the middle of the night, right? The first thing that my guides say is regulate your nervous system first, because sometimes I'll wake up and I'll have anxiety or I'll have fear, and I don't know where that's coming from, because I'm in such a relaxed state going to sleep, it can come from so many different places. So you're absolutely right that we think it's the mind, but it's not, because no matter what I do, and I tell myself, like, I'm still having those, I'm still going through that. So I'm hoping that for this episode, that the audience that tunes in, that you can really get some real value here. And Tatiana, please let us know if there's anyone that would like to partake in any of your sessions or learn more about you. How would they get hold of you?
I am the only Tatiana Villarea with 1 L and 1 R on Facebook and Google. All the information and the videos usually come up. My website is tatianavillarea.com. And on Facebook, I'm at Tatiana Villarea, hypnotherapy and coaching, my business page, where there are videos and where I post about these type of topics.
Awesome. And if you didn't catch that and it was too fast for you guys to write down, please check the show notes as well as the description box and social media. But Tatiana, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this season. It has been an absolute pleasure to have you on and share your message. And I'm pretty sure that I'll have you back on and we'll talk about more woo-woo stuff next time.
Of course.
So thank you everyone for tuning in to this week's episode of 8 Billion Podcast with Tatiana Villarea. We will catch you on the next episode of 8 Billion Podcast.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the 8 Billion Podcast. If it's moved you in any way, please share your thoughts or give us a review on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. To listen to more episodes, go to 8billionpodcast.com Or to learn more about our mission, go to 8billionproject.com.